Hey Brett, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jacob. Good to see you.
Good, you too. No, I appreciate you making the time. It's crazy because the first time that you and I ever connected, it was actually because I cold called you.
That's right.
And then we were able to have an initial conversation. But I know when I reached back out, what I made sure to address was you just seem like somebody who is a very, very good networker and a good speaker. And it's an honor to be able to have this conversation with you. I'd love if you could just give a quick, brief introduction of who you are and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Absolutely. So, yeah, I'm Brett Kiley. My background's 2 decades now in healthcare. I worked for CVS Health all across the company, worked in patient experience, I like client retention, process improvement, many things. Wonderful company. And hit 20 years and decided to do something different. Shifted still in healthcare, but now I'm vice president of healthcare solutions with Ciclum. We do custom IT solutions, AI audit for healthcare. So I lead the US vertical in healthcare.
That's awesome. Like just the wealth of experience that you have. And those are some big names too. Like I know working at CVS that long, that's a great company to work for. And I know that's how we connected. But more than anything, I think with that experience you have, I know you've been able to do keynotes and you get to be in the community and have really specific conversations. I want to take the hood off a little bit and learn a little bit more about Brett and a little bit more of maybe what drives you and some of the philosophies that got you to where you are today. And what I want to start with, I saw this post you put out where you quoted Simon Sinek, and I have the exact quote. You said, "The true value of networking doesn't come from how many people we can meet, but rather how many people we can introduce to others." And that is like the core of what we do here. I'd love to get kind of your perspective on what that quote means to you and what made you want to talk about it.
Absolutely. Well, I maybe want to talk about it because I do believe it. I believe in the power of networking, collaboration. People struggle to work by themselves, feel like they're in a silo, feel like they're all by themselves. And then you talk to somebody else who's going through the same problem and you learn from them and you get a little bit better. And it's nice to learn from your own mistakes, but it's even better to learn from other people's mistakes so you don't make them in the first place. And I think when people look at networking, I see this so much on LinkedIn and other places, they look at it like, what's in it for me? I need to talk to this person because they're a decision maker. I need to talk to this person because they can get me a job. And if we shift that mindset into, I need to talk to this person because maybe they're interesting and maybe I can help them. And the more people, I believe this, the more people that I can help get where they want to go, then that'll help me get where I want to go. Life's a team game for sure.
Yeah, it's just like the actual human mutual benefit that we get from interacting with each other. I really like what you said of, we just see it all over LinkedIn. People are posting about networking like it's a strategy, when I think it really needs to be more from the human side of things. Like, where can we help? And even like as a really personal side of it for me, it's who can we make friends with? Who can we have real relationships with? And if a benefit comes from it, great. But I agree that shouldn't be like the starting factor of it.
Yeah.
What you said, like not just on that post, but I've been seeing you put out a bunch of stuff about intentionality and kindness, or I think renewal was one of the words I saw as well. What I'd love to kind of hear from you is, where do you think we can bridge building ourselves up as professionals and trying to be good at our job or representing a company well versus bringing these traits that we're trying to build personally into just being a good person in business?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, there's a couple of different layers there to think about. But here's how I think about it. Everybody has their own problems. They have their own things that they're going through and they're working through. And there's probably a solution that I have that could benefit you. And the only way I'm ever going to know that is if I reach out. And a lot of times when you reach out to somebody, they get defensive. Why would you want to help me? Why are you really? How much do you charge? When's the catch? How is this really going to work? And that's why I think putting out that kind of content to show like, hey, this is actually the type of person that I am. This is the type of person that I hope others will be. And it just like you pointed out right there, you saw it. You're like, hey, are you really like this? And when you realize that I am very helpful, supportive, collaborative, then we can just really open, all those barriers go down, and then we can really work together for the common good.
Yeah, getting the barriers down. I like that a lot. Like, even if it's something people are seeing on social, or even just that first interaction, if the first thing you say to somebody is a sales interaction, you're probably not going to have a great conversation with these people.
Oh, that's so true. You can see it all the time. LinkedIn, check your email right now. How many on there? Here's what my company does. Here's what I do. Here's why you should buy from me. Versus, establishing that relationship first.
In your experience, what are some actual practical or tangible things that you could do to come across as more of a genuine person in that first interaction?
Yeah. Well, That's a really good question, because it's easier to do in person. You can read body language, you can read eyes. It's a little bit more difficult to do virtually. And so I've actually spent a lot of time in how do you establish that rapport? How do you do that? And one thing that I've looked at is similarities, things that I have, things that I'm passionate about, things that I really enjoy, and then finding people who are posting about those, engaging about those same things. You immediately have that commonality. Of course, you have colleges, geographies. There's a lot of things that we have in common with people. But thinking about a commonality in purpose really goes a long way. There's people who do talk about the humanity of AI and the humanity of just life in general versus all the other technicals. And people who post around people, then I know I'm probably going to like them. We're going to have some things in common. And having those reaching out like that, I think that establishes a bond right away.
Yeah, and I think you're right, like digital versus in person. I mean, it sounds like, you have a wealth of experience, years in the space. Like, what have you found makes a big difference in person, too, of just being known as the person who isn't just going around and selling everybody?
I'll tell you this. This is such a good one. We have a group of friends that are all in the same career space. We all do really well. And people sometimes go into these meetings and there's going to be a bunch of CEOs there, business leaders, and then they'll be intimidated. They're like, oh, I'm going to go into this meeting and everybody's running their own businesses and they're all so smart. But the reality is, if you took back the studio, if you watched them at home, if you saw how they interacted, people are just normal people. And a lot of times people want to be treated in a way respectfully, but just want to have a good open dialogue, open relationship like that. And so I think when you're meeting people in person or online, having no feeling of imposter syndrome, instead of feeling of empowerment, here's how I can help this other person, whether they're running a giant enterprise company or just a startup. Who knows? Taking that mindset really helps shift how I have these conversations.
That is really helpful, especially because if someone doesn't have as much experience or, it's their first couple times going to some big networking events, that's definitely true. I've definitely felt that myself. I have plenty of people that I know in my circle who feel that imposter syndrome. But I always like to say, I talked about this on the last one. I'd be curious about your perspective on this. How do you kind of cross the bridge of not having imposter syndrome and leaning into a bit of confidence in yourself and that you are, capable of helping them, whether personally or professionally? How do you bridge that gap if maybe you've never had an experience like that before? How do you come across as someone who doesn't have that imposter syndrome?
I have this, I don't have that problem anymore because I did work through it, but I am working through it with my daughter. She's 13, has the same problem. I'm working through it with our peer group where I'm kind of mentoring some people who are at that stage where they're trying to go up. So much of it has to do with the mindset, what you're shifting. If you go in thinking to go meet anybody, you're thinking, oh, this person's so smart, they know everything, I have nothing to offer. You're going to be hunched down, you're going to not make eye contact, it's going to be awkward. But if you go in the opposite and say, look, this person is excited to meet me, or this person's nervous to meet me, I have a ton of experiences that they don't have. I have things that they want. I'm a person that they would like to talk to, just pumping up this self-confidence, however that might happen. And then when you go into this meeting and you start being curious and you're asking curious questions and showing that genuine care for somebody else, it projects in a way that people respond to.
That is so good. I think the thing I caught on most there was lean into the fact that someone is always going to have something they could learn from you. You could be like, for example, like your daughter, she's 13. That is still years of experience that no one else has ever experienced. Yeah. Like everybody has their own set of values, their own set of personal experiences to share. And I think there's a lot of value in that. So I'm really glad you said that. Kind of based on I'm curious about that mentorship or peer group you have too. At a high level, what are some of the core principles that you're teaching people that you or anybody in your group are trying to instill in some of the younger generation?
Yeah. While we have social media, we call it social, right? But really, are you just posting and liking? Is it really the interaction? And one of the things that I'm trying to instill here is this level of collaboration that we can go so much faster if we go together. If you want to go longer distance, if you want to go higher, more success, doing that together with others, so much better. And so having these dialogues, we're all in different industries, and we all have similar problems. And you can have somebody from a different industry like, oh, this is how we solved that. And then now all of us are a little bit better. And each time you're a little bit better. And when you're looking at this collaboration, I think I definitely know. People feel like, I don't think I should reach out to this person because they're so busy, because look at how much they're doing, or look at how influential they are. But the reality is, if everybody's thinking that way, that means nobody's reaching out. So it might as well be you.
I love that. And one of the things that my partner Chris and I on this, the reason we started this podcast at all, is it feels like everybody is craving real human connection. Like not the fake stuff, not what you're trying to portray as the personality that someone wants to see you as, but the real conversations. In your experience, I mean, it sounds like you definitely know some people who would be labeled as the scary guy to approach. What would you say, more than anything, people are craving more of when it comes to human connection or human interaction?
I think we get very transactional in the way we do business now. If you're remote, work from home, what do? You set up a meeting. The meeting's going to be 25 minutes, and it has an agenda. Here's my topic. Here's what we're going to talk about. Here's the outcome. Perfect. Let's say it ends at 20 minutes. What do we say? I'm giving you 5 minutes of time back. The reality is, if this was a human in-person conversation, we wouldn't be in such a rush, like, all right, we covered it, gotta go, jump in the car. Say, okay, we got a couple minutes left before we go. How's the family? How's life? What are you working on? What are you excited about? And then you build this whole different level, instead of this transactional, I'm done, to, okay, we're done with that. Now we can move on to this, and then we can move on to this. It's structured. It's definitely changed the way that I have meetings, how I start meetings, how I take notes during those meetings. There's a lot of common threads that we have with people we need to utilize.
What's changed? What do you like to make sure you're including when you're having conversations with people now?
I used to be very transactional. That's just how it was. When I started this, I was always in person when we were in the field, but then converting to this, it's like, hey, this is the job. Let's get it done. Oh, perfect. You got 10 minutes back. It's what I saw in others. It's what I emulated. And then I realized, like, people don't want to be treated like that. People don't want to be treated like, you just needed me for this thing and now it's over. There's more to it. And it's really nurturing these relationships longer when there's something that you and I talk about, and you mentioned this, like you really like sailing or something. I'll make a note of those things, and then in a couple of days, message back, check out this picture of this boat, something like that. Really establishing those connections on a deeper level than just business.
Yeah, and I think nurturing the relationship there's a couple of different levels to that, right? It's the conversations we have. I'm going to remember what you tell me, and I'm going to be someone who's going to bring that up. You tell me you like boats, I'm going to send you the picture of the boat. I think between a peer group conversation and a client relationship type of conversation, what do you think it means to be someone who is dependable with these types of relationships? Like someone that you know where you're providing value to the group that you're in, and these people can depend on you for whether it's an actionable, whether it's just the type of person you are. What do you think it means to really be dependable?
Okay, so this is an interesting one. So I have this, I don't think I created this. If anything I say, I probably didn't create it. I'm sure I learned it somewhere along the way. But this is what I've kind of instilled in myself, this 51% rule in a relationship. And the idea being that I will give 51% to you, and you would give 49% to me. So we still have mutually beneficial, wherever neither of us is taking advantage of the other person. And I am still offering you more than what you're receiving from me. And I think in that, finding that harmony there, sometimes people swing way to the right, you know who they are. You've seen messages like that. I just need you to do this for me, do this thing. And then some people are the opposite of, they're just people pleasers and they'll do everything for everybody else, but don't really get enough for themselves. I think finding that 51% mark has really helped me build that loyalty, build the common ground, and the mutual respect and collaboration we need.
That's great. And if you think about it, if everybody has that mindset, everybody's going to be trying to give a little bit more than the other person. So it's not about, hoping you're the person that can get away with 49%. If everybody puts in that 51, it's like just a bigger benefit for everybody overall. I like that. That's good. I think the word you said there, harmony, like I love that word, because when you are able to build a life that feels harmonious, not even in just specific conversations or specific situations, like between work and life, and it sounds like you're a dad, and so your family, like what do you think is important when it comes to really building harmony in your life and just having some balance between everything that's going on? How do you juggle that? How do you build that?
People talk about work-life balance as if I'm going to do work and then I'm going to cut off, and then I'm going to do life and then I'm going to cut off, and there's just so much of a blend. I think I'm very fortunate. The company that I'm at, Cyclum, the leadership here, the people here, fantastic. Like we do amazing work and we do it the right way. I love that. And I think that's really important when you talk about that harmony right there. Aligns with my values, loyalty to people, doing good quality work, and we are all aligned in the same direction. I think when that doesn't happen, whether it's at work or whether it's at home, different visions, different styles, that's when that harmony breaks. And people are like, I wish I had work-life balance because I need to get away from this work thing. And if you're not running from it and you find something that you can really embrace, that harmony just seems to fall into place.
So you'd say it's probably a little bit more about how you're curating your environment than it does about some sort of internal battle you always have to fight.
I agree. And nothing's ever easy. There's always challenges in the world. But yeah, curating the environment, there's a lot of actions that we can take. And people are quick to complain, myself too. We all fall down to that, complaining about other things. Then you realize, okay, what can I control in this situation? I'm going to go do something about it. And then taking that power and having that action taken puts you in the right trajectory to get to that harmony.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like people, because like I'm on the younger side, so I'm seeing like a new generation of people coming into the workforce or trying to establish who they are as someone who's working. I see a lot of complaints that need to never happen. Like, what's your perspective on, I don't want to say complaining because you kind of already said that, but just maybe the demeanor that someone can have if you really aren't, like you're not the person who gets to control the room. You're not the person that gets to make decisions. You kind of are getting your feet wet and you're building up a resume and you're building up your confidence. Mm-hmm. How do you make sure that you keep that as the focus instead of, I'm sprinting to get this next role so I can finally have some pull? How important do you think that is? And how do you think people can do that?
Yeah, that's a trap, by the way. I used to be at that point in my career. It was a trap. Like, I'm going to sprint to this next. I want to be run store. I want to run my district. I want to run the Midwest. I want to be in charge of everything. How fast can I get up there? And then eventually it doesn't really work out fulfillment wise. And that's where I changed my philosophy many years ago around this collaboration and the networking. And I think in a lot of ways, people who are starting their careers right now are really good at it because there's more the social connection, the geographies have broken down. You're not only friends with the people you work with at the office, you're friends with people across the whole world. So I think those things will speed up that. And I think if the goal itself is just to get promoted, just to get to the next level, it becomes very transparent very quickly. And if the goal is I want to increase my skills, I want to learn from others, I can show my appreciation for what others do, then very quickly people want to help you. And then you even go faster up that path.
I want to stick to that. Like, why do you think it becomes transparent? Like, if someone is a sprinter or someone's sole focus is a title or that next thing, you're as a leader now that you are, what do you mean by that? How is it transparent?
I wish there was one thing that would just show it. And by the way, I wish it would show it earlier because sometimes you don't find out until down the road. And you're like, oh man, this person is just doing this to get promoted or to get visibility or to get exposure or who knows. But I think it goes back to that 51-49. It becomes transparent quickly when somebody's only reaching out when they need something. They're only reaching out when they want something instead of building the relationship of what can I give? How do I give more and then get more down the road? It's always the get first. And I think that has been eye-opening to me as I've looked through how different people reach out, how they ask questions. Having a lens of appreciation and gratitude for what you have and appreciation for what others do, I think is how people can overcome I just need something.
Yeah, like feeling good where you're at for the exact reason that you're here. I think that is really important, especially, I fell into that trap hard. When I was 17, 18, I was diving into startup culture. I was very in the personal development entrepreneur space and just got caught up in the weeds. And what made me just take a big step back, one of my startups pretty much failed to the ground. And I said, I need to be very grateful for the experience that I have now under my belt. And I'm going to take one step at a time and move forward. And I think the faster that people can actually realize that and feel that, that's not just a mindset trick. That is, I'm genuinely happy and grateful with where I am, and I want to take the right steps moving forward. I think that's really important. I think one of the words you said there of curiosity, I've adopted that as something I hope drives my personality for the rest of my life. What would you say is, what would you say is the overall benefit of remaining curious, even if you're the person someone should be curious to, if that makes sense. Like just always maintaining curiosity no matter what level you get to in life.
Yeah. I look at each interaction that I can learn something from someone, even if they're just, a horrible person that you never want to see again. You can learn how not to treat people. There's something to be learned from every single person. And I think having that mindset, which truly I've had to adapt that because I've shifted just in who I am over the many years. But shifting that into a generally curious mindset, finding out what really makes people do what they're doing, helping understand what drives them, motivates them, what they're interested in personally, just makes the interactions better. And it makes business better too, less transactional and more like, hey, we're humans dealing with humans.
Yeah, how would you say that curiosity perspective, because based on what you said, I feel like you'll have a good answer for this. How has being curious like that made you a better leader? Instead of how you can be curious to maybe grow and progress, how has that made you a better leader over the people you get to work with?
Yeah. So I have this note card. I can't flip my camera around, but it says, be curious, not judgmental. And sometimes when things go wrong, my instinct, like many's, is like, whose fault was it? What happened? Judge, right? This thing wasn't how I expected it. Judge, like, what's going on? And if it changed that mindset, instead of judging immediately, be curious. Why did we do this? Why did this happen? What was the thought process here? Help me understand this. Shifts everything. And man, how many mistakes I've made in my personal life, in work life, from being judgmental first and switching it to the being curious first has really sidestepped a lot of landmines.
I like that a lot. How would you say maybe that same philosophy has helped you with working with younger people specifically, or even how it's helped you be like a better parent? I'm really curious about that. It sounds like an amazing life philosophy, not just a leadership philosophy.
It is. Use it with the kids all the time, for sure. I have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. And, they'll be super mad about something. I can't believe my show's not on, or I can't believe this happened. You know how kids get. Everything's the end of the world. And we have this conversation a lot. And they'll even correct me quite a few times. Are you being curious or judgmental? You think that's corny, but literally they've heard it so much. Because it is really, they need to learn that. They need to have that. I didn't set out today to mess up your day. And if I did mess up your day, maybe it's something that I was unaware of. Maybe it was something that, who knows what. And rather than us just fighting together, mad at each other, having that level of curiosity opens things up so much more.
I love that. And I've never heard a perspective like that. It's actually the first time I've heard that, like that what you said you have on your note card. And I think it's great. What I have heard so much is, I'm a good leader, so I'm going to take accountability for everything. Everything's my fault. I'll take the brunt force of the mistake, and now let's explore how we can make sure this doesn't happen. I almost feel like your approach is just more soft, maybe is a good word for it. It doesn't have as much like, I'm going to take the accountability. This is my fault. Now let's fix it. It's, let's address this together. Let's be curious about what maybe started this problem and how we can fix it. Like, maybe what's your opinion on like brute accountability versus curiosity?
I mean, you're talking about accountability is a good thing. We tend to use it in a bad way, like it's berating somebody or holding them accountable for not doing something. But personal accountability is important, owning up to what we did and understanding that. I think you're creating a culture of that in an open environment. Yeah, that's what the leader does, right? This thing messed up. Look, ultimately it was my project and it got behind schedule. Fine. Now let's be curious. What happened? What made us get to this point? How did this happen? How can we prevent this from happening again? I think both of those things right there lower the threat level in the room. We're not attacking everybody. How could you let this happen? Like, you had one job, just do this on time. How did you do this? All these judgmental things. Everyone's just going to shut down and protect themselves. But instead, own it, like you said, but then go into like, let's problem solve together so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Make us all better together.
Just really opening the floor to people not being scared. I think eliminating the threat is probably a good way to put that. Like, let's take the threat off and let's explore the curiosity. The last thing I want to like really dive into with you, I'd love to get your perspective on this, is I hear a lot of people ask the question, if you could go and tell your 20-year-old self something, what would you tell them? But I want to shift the perspective and say, if you had to go back to being 20 years old again, what is one moment or one life lesson you would want to guarantee that you had to go through again because it taught you so much?
Interesting. There was a lot of good life lessons along the way, but I will kind of answer the second one also, going back, because I've thought about this quite a bit, and going back to 20, what would I do differently? And I think looking at it right now, instead of looking at what you were talking about, the next level, the next career, the next jump, I would look at it from the next skill. What new thing can I learn now that's going to set me up for success, whatever the next level is? A couple of years ago, we didn't know that ChatGPT existed, and now it's what somebody uses every single day. So there's skills out there that aren't related to a title. And I would have looked at number one, how do I add more skills each day? And I think number two, the importance of other people and the collaboration. You got a good grades, you're number one in school, that's awesome. But how many other people, when you leave college, are going to be there to help you get that next interview? How many people are out there sponsoring you, not just mentoring you and giving you advice, but literally pushing you to be that much better? I think those two things, when I look back on those moments I'd like to relive, probably related to those and the times where I'm like, man, I just wasted a couple of years right here, probably because I didn't follow that.
Yeah. Why do you think young people struggle so much with that? Like being able to be patient or being able to see it from a broader perspective? And how do you think, if you were to give some advice on how they could start positioning themselves towards that, like, what would you say?
It's tough to, by the way, it's tough to paint anything with a broad brush. Young people do this, old people do this, these people do that, whatever. I mean, so I don't necessarily know that it's an age thing, but a lot of times it's a perspective thing, where you are in life, where you are, in your environment. I think shaping the perspective that you have this little fishbowl here where you grew up with, and you were always ingrained with this, and these were your friends, and this is what you were told. And then once you get out and you realize, whoa, there's a whole big world out here with different people with different experiences. And from them, I can learn and I can grow. And breaking out of this has less to do with your age and anything else, and more to do with your mindset of, do I want to? Do I really want to embrace this scary big world? And I think flipping that switch to saying, yeah, I do. Like, there's more into this world than what I have, and I want to go get it. Doing it through people, with people. That mindset shift is critical.
Yeah, because it feels safe, like staying with what you're used to, So you have to really embrace that it's not going to be easy, and it's definitely going to be scary. I've experienced that firsthand, so that's really good advice. I think what I'd like to end a lot of these with, and really dive into, is whether it's for business or whether it's for yourself or whether it's for your kids, what is one like mantra or philosophy that you're really focusing on right now and trying to live by or to teach by?
Okay. All right. One is, if I give enough to other people, then I will get enough in return. I do believe that. Can I give more than I return? Totally believe that. The other one, which I've adapted, is I have already survived 100% of my worst days I've ever had. So no matter what comes up next, it's always been like, oh, this is so horrible. This is the worst thing ever. I've always gotten through it. And everybody listening to this right now has done the same thing. They've gotten through it. I'm like, wow, once you realize that, this next thing that comes up, my track record's pretty good. It's 100% success rate.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And that's a much deeper concept than it might sound too. Like you're still here and you're still kicking. And that means you're capable of kicking the next thing too. That's right. Powerful stuff. That's very powerful stuff. Thank you for that one.
Yeah. Thanks, Jacob.
That's great. I'm so glad we were able to make some time today and just talk about these things. I think more than anything, just opening up the space where it doesn't have to be like the technicalities of AI or what's going on in the space or this or that. It's really just the value of connecting with people and understanding what drives us. And, it's so cool because people like you and me, it's completely different perspectives, completely different people, like all the stuff that you have in the space, all the connections you have. And really just driving a good conversation is what we love to do with these. So thank you so much for making the time today.
Yeah, great experience and nice job. You did a great work.
Thank you. Well, we'll catch you soon, Brett. It was really good talking with you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.